Welcome to the Learn English 2020 course, Part 1. In this part of the course we'll be covering idioms. Idioms are common phrases or expressions in the English language which they paint a picture and to explain what they mean, but if taken literally they don't make sense. Your course instructor for this lecture will be Sam. He is a business expert with over 20 years experience working in the business industry. Tracked Wealth Online is our YouTube channel which aims to provide quality educational content from the business world. Please like and subscribe to our channel to show your appreciation. Okay, let's start the course. Well, in this course we're going to cover 20 idioms or expressions in the English language, starting with the letter A. So here we go. Number 1, above someone's head. This means something that is too difficult or too clever to understand for the person. For example, the university course was above my friend's head. He could not understand it at all. Okay, number 2. Above one's station means higher than the person's social class or position in a company. For example, John was educated at university above his station, considering his parents had no education and worked in a factory. This means that John's parents worked in a factory and were not educated, but John, because he went to university, he got a good education, so he moved up in the social, in his social class, and in society he was at a higher level. Number 3, act the goat is to behave in a silly or stupid way on purpose. Something that boys or young boys will do, to be silly, make fun, and to impress their friends and to have a joke. For example, the boys in the class at school always act the goat when the teacher's not there. Okay, number 4, according to one's own lights. This means acting in line or according to one's own beliefs. For example, you may believe something and act like, in a certain way because of that, but other people may not believe the same thing, so they will think that you're acting according to your own lights. An example could be for example, the tycoon who wanted to go to Mars was acting according to his own lights, which means according to his own beliefs. Okay, next one, number 5. Advanced in years. This means a person who is very old, or an old person. For example, my mother is advanced in years. She is very old. Number 6. Speaking at the top of one's voice means to speak as loud as possible. John was speaking at the top of one's voice. Everyone could hear him. He was speaking at the top of his voice. Okay, number 7. At someone's beck and call means to be always available, to obey, to do anything at any time. For example, your boss might say he wants you to always be at his beck and call, which means that whenever he wants something done, he can give you a call. Number 8. At the end, when the person is at the end of one's tether, that means that they're at the limit of one's energy or their energy or motivation. For example, I was at the end of my tether halfway through the marathon. That means that if you're running a 25-mile marathon and you get to like 12 miles halfway through the marathon and you've run out of energy and you have got, you can't, motivate yourself to run anymore, then you give up. That means you're at the end of your tether and you want to stop. Tether is also another word for rope. So for example, if an animal or a goat was tied to a post on a rope and then the goat tried to run off, he would be reaching the end of his tether, his rope, when he was trying to run away. So the rope would stop him going further and escaping. In the same way, a tether is something that is limiting your behaviour and is stopping you doing something. Okay, moving on to number 9. At the drop of a hat means to do something immediately and with no questions asked. For example, my wife is always ready to go shopping at the drop of a hat. Whenever I say let's go shopping, she says, yes, let's go shopping. She never complains or argues. So she's always ready to go shopping at the drop of a hat. Okay, moving on to the next one. At the bottom of the ladder means working at the lowest rank possible in a job. And that means that you're the lowest ranking employee in your company or where you're working. For example, my friend started his new job at the bottom of the ladder at his new company because he was a junior and he had just joined the company and he was very young. He had to start at the bottom of the company as the tea boy and then slowly work his way up to become a junior office assistant and then junior assistant and then secretary and then manager. So he was lucky to get a job starting at the bottom of the ladder. When he was at the bottom of the ladder, he could work his way up and climb his way up the ladder and progress in the company. For example, a new employee may start off at the bottom of a ladder and then climb his way up to higher positions with more experience and more skills and more training as time goes on. And similar to when you're climbing a ladder, this is concept is very similar to when you're climbing a ladder. You start at the bottom of the ladder and then you put your legs and your feet one step at a time, slowly moving up the ladder. And this is a concept that's in parallel with climbing a ladder. Number 11, at one's wit's end. This is a person who has run out of options or ideas to fix a problem or a situation. This basically means that someone who's desperate to do something but has no more idea or fix a problem and hasn't run out of ideas or means to fix the problem or get out of the situation. For example, I was at my wit's end trying to solve the 5,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. I couldn't find any pieces that fitted in the 5,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. It was just too much, too many pieces, and it was too confusing. I was at my wit's end. Okay, moving on to the next one, number 12. At the final hour, or at the 11th hour means that at the final hour. This means that you do something at the last minute before you run out of time completely. So doing something at the final hour doing something at the 11th hour is the last hour, for example, in the day. So if you do something at 11 p.m. and you start doing something at 11 p.m. and you've got to get it finished done today, then you've got 1 hour to finish it. So you've got just 1 hour to finish it before the day finishes and you run out of time. So doing something at the 11th hour means doing something at the final hour or at the latest last minute, just before your time runs out. Just so at the final hour you do something just before you run out of time. For example, in World War II, it was at the 11th hour, due to the assistance of the Americans, that the British and the European allies won the war. Another example, I caught the bus at the 11th hour just before they stopped running for the night at midnight. Okay, moving on to number 13. At the expense of someone or something. This means to hurt someone's chances. For example, if somebody is doing a marathon and they fall ill or they're too lazy, then that means that they have to stay home at the expense of running the marathon. That means they have to, they will lose the chance to run the marathon, or their chances of running the marathon are much reduced because they're not likely to recover in time to run the marathon. So at the expense of someone or something means to lose something. If you do one thing, then it means that you lose the chance to do something else. For example, John stayed at home when he was ill at the expense of getting a salary and being paid for going to work. Because John was self-employed, if he didn't go to work, then he would not get paid. So John thought, he wanted to stay at home when he was ill, but he knew it was going to be at the expense of not getting paid for his sick time. Okay, moving on to the next one. Number 14, add sixes and sevens, means that you're mixing up your numbers. It means that your sixes, when you write a 6, you confuse it, you write it like a 7, or you write a 7 and it looks like a 6, so you're getting confused and mixed up. So add sixes and sevens means that you're not organized or structured. For example, my assistant is always at sixes and sevens when I ask her to do a simple task. She doesn't know how to do it. She's always confused and disorganized. Okay, moving on to the number 15. To avoid someone like the plague. Now, the plague is an illness. It's a disease that affects lots of people, and in the middle century it was a disease carried by rats, and thousands of people caught it and died. So to avoid the plague means to avoid something that is you dislike, or something that is bad or horrible, and so you avoid it, like the plague. So if there was a disease or something that was causing an illness, you would stay away from it because you want to look after your health. So to avoid someone like the plague means to stay away from something or someone that you don't like. For example, you might stay away from somebody that has the flu because you don't want to catch the flu. You might stay away from playing cricket because you know that cricket is a dangerous game and you can get injured if the cricket ball hits you, in the face, or on your body, because the cricket ball is very hard and painful, and when it's thrown at you, it's coming very fast and it's very hard, difficult to see the cricket ball in time if you don't play cricket regularly. And if you don't see the cricket ball, it's more than likely going to hit you in your leg or your stomach or your face, and it would be very, very painful. For example, another example would be, I don't like alcohol. I keep away from it like the plague. This means that you don't like alcohol because it's very bad for you. Or when you drink alcohol, you feel very bad. Okay, moving on to the next example. Pigs might fly. This means that something is so unbelievable or outstanding or extraordinary that you don't believe it. If somebody said to you, pigs might fly, you think, you're joking, that's not possible. You're talking rubbish. So to say to somebody pigs might fly means you're saying you don't believe them and they're talking, nonsense. So to say pigs might fly is to say that you don't believe it. For example, John says he's going to Mars and pigs might fly when that happens, I said. So I said, okay, John, you're going to Mars, but when that happens, pigs are going to be flying in the sky, which means that I don't believe him because pigs are going to never fly in the sky, and John is never going to Mars. 17, at Loggerheads. This means you're bashing your head against somebody else's head. You're arguing against somebody for something, and say, in your office, you're planning your Christmas meal, and one person says he wants to go to a restaurant, and the other person says he wants to go to a wine bar or a club, and then you don't agree with each other, so you're arguing, which one is better. So you're bashing your heads against each other, trying to convince and persuade each other, which option is the best option. So being at loggerheads means disagreeing with somebody or being opposed to somebody, what somebody is saying. So being at loggerheads means being opposed to something or someone when you are in disagreement. Another example, my boss is at loggerheads with the government over how much tax he should pay. He doesn't believe he should pay so much tax, but the government is saying that he must pay the tax bill that they have sent him. And it is correct, but my boss does not believe that. He believes the tax bill is too much and he should be paying much less than that. Okay, the next number is 18. You are free to do whatever you want. Being at liberty means being free to do whatever you want. My boss said you're at liberty to go to lunch at any time you want. So I said, can I go at 3 o'clock? And he said, yeah, you can go you're at liberty to go to lunch at any time you like. Another example, my wife said I was at liberty to cut the garden grass whenever I wanted. So she was saying she wanted me to cut the grass and I could cut it at whatever time that I wanted to. I think she was making a joke. Okay, moving on to the next one. Number 19, all at sea. being all at sea, or someone who is all at sea, means somebody who is confused and lost. For example, being in a small boat in a big ocean at sea, you would be you could be confused and you could be lost very easily. So being all at sea means being puzzled and baffled or confused or lost. For example, my friend is all at sea about going to university. He doesn't know if it's a good idea because it's going to cost a lot of money to go to university, and then, you know, when he finishes university, he's not guaranteed to get a job, so it may be a waste of money. So he can't decide if it's going to be a good investment to go to university, or he should get a job now. He's all at sea about going to university. Okay, moving on to the next one, number 20. This is the last one of this part of the course. Someone who is afraid of one's own shadow, or afraid of their own shadow, means that somebody who is always easily frightened or alarmed or worried or afraid of little things happening. For example, if you were riding your motorbike and one day you crashed your motorbike, then you may be, you may become afraid of riding your motorbike again, or being on the motorbike and crashing again, or you may be afraid of other people riding a motorbike, or you may start becoming afraid of crossing the road, or bicycles, or even cars. So some afraid of one's own shadow is usually for a reason. Somebody who's easily terrified, alarmed or worried. For another example, after he was mugged, John was afraid of his own shadow. He was afraid to go out at night because he thought maybe he would get mugged again. He was afraid to go out alone or anywhere that he wasn't familiar with, because he thought, he was afraid of being mugged again, or getting into a dangerous, being attacked again by strangers. So John stayed at home, or he stayed inside the office, and he made sure that somebody was always with him when he went out of the house, or when he went out of the office. For safety, he always kept himself with at least one person or a group of people, so that he would feel safe and secure when he was going outside, and there would be no chance of being mugged again. Thank you, that's all for this part of the course. Have a nice day, and please like and subscribe to our channel, which is the Attract Wealth Online channel on YouTube. Thank you.